Hi, and welcome back to my studio. I'm Russell Smith, and today I'd like to talk to you about how to photograph your artwork using the proper equipment and techniques. In this digital age, it's become necessary for artists to keep good digital copies of their artwork on file, whether it be for reproduction, or marketing, or images to submit to galleries and exhibitions, or just to have a good copy for yourself if and when the original ever sells. Now, the first thing you're going to need, of course, is a good camera. Now, when I have a piece that I want to have reproduced for a limited edition, that requires a large format camera that can shoot at least 300 dpi at full size. So if you've got a 30 to 40 inch painting or larger, most of your consumer models won't shoot an image that large. I've actually got a professional photographer that does my large format photography work for me. But for general use, I use my own camera and shoot straight off the easel. I have a Canon 70D which shoots up to 20.2 megapixels, and at that size I can get a 300 dpi image that's 18.25 inches wide. That's actually perfect for my open editions, and it's more than sufficient for anything that I need to put online. Well, the next thing you're going to need is good lighting. I've been painting professionally for 19 years now, and I painted as a side hobby for 9 years before that. And for that entire time, good studio lighting is something that I've been tinkering with constantly. When I first set up my current studio, I installed 2 cool fluorescent bulbs over what would become my painting area, and then I balanced those with 3 warm incandescent can lights. That was an idea I got from the printer that I was using at the time. It worked okay, but it meant that I had to manage 2 fixtures, 2 separate light switches, and 5 bulbs. And I also had no way of knowing how balanced the light temperature was in my studio, and it always felt a little off, as if the fluorescents weren't quite doing their duty in balancing out the incandescents. Well, a few years ago, I removed the fluorescent fixture entirely, and I replaced the 3 warm incandescent lights with 5 lights rated at 4100 Kelvin. That's still a little bit on the warm side, but at least I knew what I was dealing with at that point. Still, there were drawbacks though. Those lights always had a warm-up period of about 10 minutes once they were turned on, so I could never go straight to my easel and start painting. Also, shining down from the ceiling, they produced some glare at the top of my canvases, which was a problem I also had with the previous setup. Now, several months ago, Dave Santillanes, who is a great landscape painter out in Colorado, wrote a blog for Oil Painters of America in which he described his studio lighting setup. He recommended 10-inch Viltrox LED panels, which can be found on Amazon. They can be purchased in sets of 2 or 3, and they come with their own stands. I purchased a set of 2 based on his recommendation. I have to say, I love these things. You can adjust both the brightness and the color temperature with these lights, ranging from 3300 Kelvin on the warm end up to 5600 Kelvin. Natural sunlight falls in the low 5000 K range, so I keep mine right around 5200. They also come with a remote control which allows you to adjust the lights both individually or as a group. And they don't require any warm-up period like my previous lights did. I can just come in the studio and flick them on. Now, the last things you're going to need are polarizing filters, both for the lights and the camera. Polarizing filters will eliminate not only the light reflected off your brushwork, but they also eliminate the reflected ambient light as well, so that the image you're getting isn't influenced by reflected light at all. Now, I've used both Tiffin and Hoya depolarizing filters for my lenses, and I find that Hoya filters work better. Now, you're going to need filters for your lights too, and this gets a little trickier because it's hard to find specifically sized polarizing filters for lights. But you can buy polarizing film in various sizes, which is what I did. I found mine at Polarization.com, where they sell 17-inch wide film by the foot. I bought 3 feet and then cut that in half to make 2 17 by 18 sheets. You do have to mount the sheets between something rigid though, or else they'll just curl up and be ineffective. At first I tried cardboard, cutting windows out of 2 large squares and then sandwiching the polarizing film in between them. But the cardboard wasn't quite rigid enough, and they were still prone to warping and bending slightly. So to remedy that, I removed the cardboard on one side and replaced it with 1/2-inch gator board, which gives it plenty of rigidity and it prevents the film from buckling and warping as much. And also, by using the gator board, it created a nice little lip that I can use to hang them on my lights. Now, it's very important that you make sure that the polarizing films are oriented in the same direction, or else they won't be as effective. And the way you can tell is by placing the films over each other. If they're oriented perpendicular to each other, the polarizing lines in the film will cancel each other out and you won't be able to see through the films. But if they're oriented in the same direction, then you'll be able to see through them, and that's how they should be mounted. I marked my frames so that I'll always know which end is the top. Next, set the white balance on your camera, and you can do that one of two ways. You can either shoot a gray target and assign it as the white balance reference, or you can manually set the color temperature. Now, if you're not sure how to do that, I suggest looking it up in your camera's user manual. I prefer to set the temperature manually because that gives me greater control. Now, theoretically, if I have my lights set at 5200K, then I should set my camera at the same temperature to get an accurate image. But my LED lights aren't the only lights in my studio. As you can see behind me, I've got several windows that let in light from the outside, and although there's no direct sunlight coming in and touching my canvas, the exterior light coming in does influence the ambient light in my studio. So for that reason, I've found that by leaving the lights at 5200K but setting the camera at 4000K, that actually gives me the best results. You'll also need to reduce the camera shake as much as possible. Now, Canon offers a phone app which allows me to control the shutter from my phone so that I don't have to touch the camera to shoot. If you don't have that available, you can also set the timer instead. Make sure you bracket your exposures to get the best results. Now, this is where I'm going to end the tutorial, but for me, this isn't the final step. No photo reproduction is perfect directly out of the camera, so once I have images that I'm satisfied with, I import them into Adobe Lightroom or Photoshop and do additional post-production color correcting to match them back to the artwork more accurately. Now, I've been using Adobe applications for 25 years now, and I consider them to be essential tools. But I know that a lot of people don't have access to those applications. The good news is that there are other applications available that will allow you to make further refinements to your images. You can even do it on your phone to a small degree. But since I have no way of knowing what applications you're using, and since the final image is subjective to your own personal taste, I'll end the lesson here. I will add that one thing you'll notice is by using polarizing filters, they'll boost the saturation of your images you get. So in post-production, I almost always have to bring down the saturation slightly. Everything else is up to you. I hope this video was informative, and I hope it helps with your work. Thanks so much for watching.